free to be whoever you want to be. Feel free to dance, feel free to sing, just feel free. Feels like the world is picking on ya. Feels like it's picking on me.
All right, what's going on, everybody? Welcome back to episode 19 of the Two-Tone Talk podcast with your host, me, Brad Steele. And it's good to see you on this Monday afternoon after divisional weekend has ended in the NFL. It's episode 19. We're on Spotify, Apple, SoundCloud, places where you get your podcasts. We're on YouTube. If you haven't yet, please go subscribe to the Two-Tone Talk YouTube page, as well as the Two-Tone Talk Twitter at Two-Tone Talk. Going to be an eventful offseason for the Tennessee Titans, and you want to stay up to date. Not that I'm going to keep you up to date. There's a ton of accounts that'll do that, but if you just want somebody to shoot straight with you about what's going on in Tennessee Titans world, I will gladly do that for you all off season and, of course, during the season. As for today, a little different type episode. It is the Two-Tone Talk podcast. This is where we talk about the Tennessee Titans and different things going on with them, but there's really nothing new to talk about with them today. They hired Rand Carthon as the new GM last week. We're all very excited about that. I talked plenty about that on Friday's episode, but since then, really nothing new going on. The search for a new offensive coordinator continues. I expect that announcement will come soon because you got to get started with your new staff, looking toward a new off season and a new, summer camp, training camp, all that stuff. So you got to get your staff in place quick. So I expect the offensive coordinator hire to come soon. But for today, because there's nothing really new to talk about in Titans world, let me first of all say, as I have been doing 2 episodes a week, one on Monday, one on Friday, officially starting this week, we're going down to 1 episode a week here on Mondays. There's just not going to be enough to talk about. Come on, to do 2 episodes a week. Now, maybe later as we get into free agency, the draft, things like that, things will change. But for right now, we're going to go down to 1 episode a week on Monday. And then, you guys know as well as I do, February and March is kind of uneventful months in the world of football and in the NFL. So may even take a little bit of time off once we get into that. But for right now, we're going to 1 episode a week on Mondays. And this is that. This is episode 19. And because there's nothing new to talk about with the Titans, we're going to talk about divisional playoff weekend that we just watched. How maybe some of this relates to the Titans. Do you ever watch some of these teams that have made it this far and you think, man, what do the Titans got to do to be back here? What do they have to do to be back on this stage competing at this level? Maybe we'll talk about a little bit of that as we go along and talk about the games from this weekend. Let's go chronologically through them. Chiefs, Jaguars. We saw our old friends, the Jaguars season, come to an end in Kansas City. Now, they put up a good fight. I thought the Jaguars put up a good fight. I said beforehand, I thought the Jags had a shot in this game. And they did. They had a shot. The key for Jacksonville, they had some missed opportunities. You're talking about an interception off of a tip that went through a guy's hands. You're talking about a deep ball to, I believe, Zay Jones that he dropped. You're talking about, other missed opportunities for the Jaguars. Turnover in the red zone. There were some missed opportunities for the Jaguars, and if you're going to beat the Chiefs in the playoffs at Kansas City, you can't let those opportunities slip through your hands, and Jacksonville did. So they lost. Overall, I thought they put up a good fight, and obviously, with the option that they could be getting Calvin Ridley next year to add to the weapons that they already have. I mean, let's just be honest. They've got some pretty good weapons on that team. Trevor Lawrence, very much so looking like the future of that organization. And so that's something for all Titans fans and Colts fans and Texans fans to keep their eye on. I think they're going to be the pick that everybody's making to win that division next year. But just want to say they were in this same position 5 or 6 years ago getting a sip of coffee. They were in this same position 5 or 6 years ago. They made it to an AFC title game. Everybody was so excited about the Jags, and they've been horrible ever since until this year. Now, the difference is now they have Trevor Lawrence, and then they had Blake Bortles. So, I mean, there is a key difference there. But it's the Jaguars. Let's, maybe it's just the Titans in me, but let's hold our horses before we just declare that, they're the next big thing. Let's hold off for a little bit. But yes, the Jacksonville Jaguars, that's something to keep note of. If you're a Titans fan out there, the Titans have kind of been that team in the AFC South for the last couple of years. Now you see the Jags doing what they're doing. They've got a lot to be excited about going into next season. Now they've got a lot of free agents that they've got to re-sign and things of that nature, but they've got a lot to be excited about. And so, now there's somebody in the YouTube chat, Jags fan, that says the Jags have their franchise quarterback, which I agree with. The Titans don't, which for right now I do agree with, and we have the best coach in the South. Now that I don't know. I don't know about best coach in the South. Doug Peterson did a great job this year. But, let's hold our horses on that. But yeah, the Titans are going to need a big offseason. They're going to need to figure it out at the quarterback position, other places. But, the Jaguars, that's going to be a team that people are excited about going into next year. So if you're a Titans fan out there and you're already ready to get mad about the media praising the Jaguars, I'm just going to go and tell you it's going to happen. The media is going to be in love with Jacksonville coming in next year. Everybody's going to be picking them to win the AFC South, so don't act surprised when they do. It's just, that's the way it's going to be. As far as the Chiefs, I want to talk about the Chiefs real quick. The Chiefs, I don't like the Chiefs. You don't like the Chiefs. Whatever. But the Chiefs are getting ready to play in their 5th straight AFC Championship game. That's unbelievably impressive. And I want to talk about this Patrick Mahomes, man. Patrick Mahomes, I think it's easy to hate on Patrick Mahomes. Partially because I think people just associate him with his brother. I think people associate him with his brother, and they're like, okay, I hate his brother, and therefore I hate him. Because he kind of looks like him. But, and also I think some people hate him because, he's kind of been the standard bearer for the last 5 years. He's been the premier guy in the NFL, and we always root for the guy who's the best to lose. LeBron, Brady, it's just what we do. It's our natural inclination as fans. We root for anybody to beat the guy who's on top. And when we think of Mahomes, we think of all the trickery. We think of the sidearm throws. We think of the magical things that he does, scrambling around, throwing across his body, and completing these passes that nobody else would even attempt, but he makes it look easy. And yes, that is unbelievable that he's able to do that. But I think we have to talk about, I'm just calling it like I see it. I don't like the Chiefs, but we have to call it like we see it, man. This guy has got a lot of heart. This Patrick Mahomes, man, he's proven over the years to be a fighter. We saw it last year. 13 seconds to go and they were done, but this guy just marched down there and kicked the field goal with 13 seconds to go in a game. We've seen this guy numerous times back against the wall. He finds a way to get it done. I may not care much for the team or anything, but I have no problem saying this guy is one that we're going to be talking about forever. He showed a lot of heart, high ankle sprain. Now, I do understand all these people that are like, Patrick Mahomes, he had a high ankle sprain. We've never seen somebody play through that. Well, Ryan Tannehill did it twice this year, but whatever. Whatever. It's not as fun to talk about Ryan Tannehill as it is to talk about Patrick Mahomes. I get it. It gets more ratings to talk about Mahomes, but, I think he did show a lot of heart coming in there on one leg, beating a very game Jacksonville team. Kudos to him for that. I mean, for real, kudos to him for that. Showed a lot of heart. And let's be honest, a lot of people were kind of down on the Chiefs coming into this year because they lost Tyreek Hill. You guys remember that. Oh, this Chiefs offense, it may not work. Mahomes may not have the magic anymore without Tyreek Hill. The guy doesn't have an elite wide receiver on the roster. I mean, Juju Smith-Schuster's good. He's got some decent wide receivers. He obviously has the best tight end in the league. That helps, but it's like, it's not like, I mean, he lost a major weapon this offseason and didn't miss a beat. The guy's just great. The guy's great. You say whatever you want. He's about to play in his 5th straight AFC title game. That's greatness. That's greatness, and you don't have to like him. You can root against him. I'm not saying you shouldn't. I'm just saying you got to recognize greatness when it's in front of you. And on one leg the other night, this guy's already, I mean, just, people keep trying to make that hot take argument that he's overrated and whatnot. I'm not buying it, man. I don't have to like him to say, and I was this way about Brady when he was in New England too. I don't have to like him, but I'm just telling you what I see on these games. This guy is next level greatness. And he's going to go down in the history books as being just that. One of the greatest we've ever seen. People say that's over dramatic, but think about the resume he's building. And he's still in his 20s. I mean, he's 28, 29 years old. He just gets started. If he wants to keep playing, for a long time, he can. He's next level. Well, I'm getting to the Cowboys. Cowboys talk's coming. Chris Collinsworth does have an obsession with Patrick Mahomes. For those of you listening, you don't know what I'm talking about. I got the YouTube chat. If you're listening on Spotify or something, you don't know what I'm talking about. YouTube chat's talking about the Cowboys and Chris Collinsworth and stuff. But Chiefs going to the AFC title game for the 5th year in a row. Andy Reid. Can you believe there were people who thought that he was a bum when he got hired to Kansas City? Yeesh. I'll get to the Cowboys in a second. I'm going in chronological order. The next thing on the list is the Eagles decimating the Giants. Now, a lot of people talking about Dak Prescott with Dallas saying, okay, he proved he's not the guy. And I agree. But at the same time, those same people are like, well, the Giants, they've got hope going forward because they've got a quarterback in Daniel Jones. What did anybody see out of Daniel Jones the other night in a playoff game against the Eagles? I know the Eagles got a great defense. They're a great team. What did anybody see out of Daniel Jones the other night that made them go, yeah? Woo! The Giants are great going forward with Daniel Jones. I'm still not buying this Daniel. He had a better season. He had a better season than any that he's had. And I'll be fair. They ain't got the greatest weapons in New York. Okay, I've said they're a good comparison with the Titans. Okay, they rely on their run game. Henry, Saquon. They have a mediocre to alright quarterback, Tannehill, Jones. They've got no weapons. The only difference is the Titans had a weapon and they traded him away to the Eagles. Don't get me started on that. But I guess I must get started on that because look at the Eagles, man. They look fantastic. A.J. Brown didn't even do anything the other night because he didn't have to. They just torched this Giants defense. Jalen Hurts looked unbelievable. Devontae Smith looked unbelievable. And yeah, the Eagles looked great. And I was rooting against them, guys. I'm going to be honest with you. I was rooting against the Eagles because AJ and all that stuff, I don't like their coach. He's doing a good job. But Sirianni, he gets on my nerves. He's got major Todd Packer energy. If anybody's ever watched The Office, you ever watched Todd Packer, Nick Sirianni has got some real Todd Packer energy. Just obnoxious as he can be. But he's doing a good job. Again, like I said about Mahomes, you got to like him to understand he's doing a good job. He's their GM's assembled a great roster. Don't we know it? But the Eagles look great. And San Francisco's going to have their work cut out for them because they're going to Philly to play these guys. And again, Jalen Hurts, we saw some bad divisional round quarterback play from the NFC East. Prescott and Jones both left a lot to be desired. But Jalen Hurts, he tore them up. He looked great. And the Eagles defense only gave up 7 points, just totally shut down the Giants. And this was a disappointing performance. If you watched or listened to the podcast last week, I said I thought the Giants had a shot in this game. I didn't pick them to win, but I thought they would be very competitive. Whoa, was I wrong? 38-7, 31-7. This was a beatdown. Never fun to watch a beatdown in the divisional round unless you're the team putting on the beatdown. Then it's a blast. But, yeah, as bad as I hate to say it, the Eagles look really good. Wes said, don't we know we saw bad divisional round QB play because last year our guy was at the top of the worst QB? Yeah, I mean, we know what bad quarterback play in the divisional round looks like. Still, that's still the most devastating loss I've ever seen as a fan. I was too young to remember the Super Bowl loss to the Rams 1 yard short. I don't really remember much of that because I was so young. But, like, that was the most devastating because, I mean, that was their chance. That was their chance. I've talked about it ad nauseum. I can't talk about it anymore. Let's go to Sunday's games. The Bengals-Bills. Okay. This game didn't live up to the hype at all. I thought this was going to be, like, the game of the weekend. And I'm telling you, man, These Bengals, there's so much I could say. I don't like the Bengals. I like Burrow. I don't like the Bengals, okay? And you know why I don't like the Bengals. We just talked about it last year. Of course, I ain't going to get mad at somebody for going in and playing good and winning. But you know what? The Bengals they are built to go into any place under any circumstances and win games. They've got the coolest, calmest quarterback I've ever seen. We saw it in college with LSU. Doesn't matter what you throw at this guy. He is so, he's got such quiet confidence and such swagger. We saw it after they won yesterday. He said, hey, I hope y'all get a good refund. Hope y'all get a refund on them tickets to that neutral site AFC title game y'all been so excited about. And he's got such swagger, it's ridiculous. And bad news, everybody, for everybody in AFC, he ain't going nowhere anytime soon. He's only 24 years old. So he's just getting started. Already playing in his second AFC title game, maybe his second Super Bowl. This guy, just nothing phases him. The road atmosphere, they were in Buffalo. The Bengals got the ball first, and I've never seen a road team in the playoffs look that comfortable on the road in the snow. Literally, you think about Buffalo, that's a hostile atmosphere, man. Those fans are crazy in Buffalo. They're jumping through tables like McFoley, okay? And Joe Burrow comes in there on the first drive. Bengals get the ball first, and you know how that usually goes for the road team. They usually get the ball, go 3 and out. You know, it's just, you never want to get the ball first on the road against, a good team like Buffalo, right? Man, they came out there and just marched down the field with such ease that by the time the drive was over, the fans in Buffalo were already silent. They were quiet after one drive. Oh, Joe Burrow is one of those guys that you watch and you're just like, I would give anything to have a guy like that at quarterback. I would give anything to have a guy like that, man. He's just unreal. And they got, to be fair, Cincinnati, the opposite of the New York Giants, they've got weapons all over the field. Jamar Chase is a top 5 wide receiver. T. Higgins is great. Tyler Boyd's great. Joe Mixon's a great running back. I mean, they've just, as Hayden Hurst, they've got it tight end. They've just got weapons galore all over the field. And then on top of that, they've got a stud at quarterback. I mean, gosh. You just watch. I'm sorry, guys. I sit there and I watch that and I compare it with the Titans because this is the Two Tone Talk podcast. And I'm just like, gosh. They've got all those weapons. And we've got Robert Woods. How some teams just get all the luck, But I mean, that's coaching too. They've got a good system in place. Somebody in the chat said, has it been confirmed that Chris Harris from Washington is coming to us? If so, how do you rate that move? Chris Harris, I think they said he has been hired as the new DB's coach. I'm be honest with you, I don't know. I know Washington, he's coming from the Commanders. They've had a really good secondary. So, I mean, everybody seems to like it. So, it's fine with me. But they need help in the secondary. And so, he's coached a good secondary in Washington. So, that bodes well. But, yeah, I'm telling you, and somebody said, can you believe the Titans would have had T. Higgins if they didn't get Isaiah Wilson? I could vomit. And we would also have Amon-Ra St. Brown from Detroit, who's done really well, if we hadn't traded up to get Dez Fitzpatrick from Louisville. Did y'all hear Rand Carthon in his, I'm sorry I'm going all over the place here, but Rand Carthon's opening press conference, he got asked about analytics, using analytics. And you remember John Robinson, what he said about analytics. It's literally stuck in the 1970s. He was like, I am the analytics department. I make the decisions. I will decide. Well, I was so relieved to hear Rand Carthon come up in here and be like, hey, listen, we're going to use analytics. I love the story he told about analytics are what led the 49ers to draft running back Elijah Mitchell, who's been a major part of what they're doing. I was relieved to hear that. I was like, thank God we're entering 2023 and we're going to have an analytics department. Jeez. I guess that is something to talk about Titans-wise. Rand Carthon's introductory press conference. I liked what he had to say. It's hard to mess up the introductory press conference. I mean, let's be honest. It's hard to mess that up. We want to win. We're going to build a great roster. You know just what to say. But he said, I mean, I like the guy. He's got a lot of charisma. I like him, and what I like more than anything he had to say at the press conference. I like his resume. Wesley Barnes, my friend and former roommate, said, when Burrow got drafted, it never even crossed my mind that he wouldn't pan out. I couldn't remember the last time I saw a quarterback be drafted. I just knew they would be. Literally, I feel like every time a quarterback, like Trevor Lawrence, for example, I'm not just saying it because he plays with the Jags, he got drafted and there was so much hype around him that it was like, this might end horribly. Because you put so much hype around a guy, and so many times those number 1, number 2 draft picks don't pan out. But Burrow, it was like, no doubt, this guy is going to dominate. Let me get a sip of coffee. Let me say this real quick about the Bills, though. I talked about the Bengals. Very disappointing end of the year for the Bills. They were like the team that everybody picked. The Damar Hamlin thing had a lot of people rooting for them. And, this was not just a devastating end to a promising year. It was a crushing end. This final score was 27-10. That's not even indicative of how bad it was. This was Bengals all the way from start to finish. And there's a lot of people wanting some hot takes on Twitter today. And they're saying, well, turns out Josh Allen just can't win the big one. Josh Allen ain't no better than this guy. And I've even seen Titans fans trying to compare this dude to Ryan Tannehill because he lost in the divisional round. Stop it. Don't hurt your back grasping and reaching at them straws up there. Come on, folks. Come on. They both wear the same number, and that's where the comparison stopped with those two. But I've seen a lot of people coming at Josh Allen and tearing Josh Allen down, and he can't win the big one. He's overrated and all of this. I think we better be careful, all right? Now, yesterday was tough. He had a tough go of it. The Bills had a tough go of it. I'm not denying that. They've gotten to the AFC title game a couple of years ago. They've been put out in the divisional round the last couple of years. And, yeah, they haven't made it to the Super Bowl. But can we just make sure we're not being disrespectful? Because this guy is still... He's easily top 5. In my mind, I'd probably put him 3rd right now. I'm not going to just look at yesterday's performance. And I'm going to look at his whole body of work. I'd still put him third behind Mahomes and Burrow right now. Easy. Before we just speculate this guy can't do it. You want to know the last guy I heard him say that about was Peyton Manning. I'm old enough to remember Peyton Manning, he came into the league in 99? 98? Didn't win a Super Bowl till 2007. So you had nearly a decade of Peyton Manning can't do it. Peyton Manning can't win a Super Bowl. He can get to the playoffs. He's a great regular season quarterback, but he can't win the big one. Well, eventually he played in 4 Super Bowls and won 2 of them. So, I mean, it ended up working out for Peyton. I just wish we would hold our horses on just declaring Josh Allen a done deal. I just wish we would chill out a little bit because, you know, we've seen this guy and how good he can be. And lest we forget, he was 13 seconds away from the AFC title game last year. I mean, that was a freak thing in the divisional round last year where if they'd been playing any other team with any other quarterback, they would have won. Okay, so let's just hold off on declaring Josh Allen a done deal. Now, what I will say is this, because I've been saying this for the last 2 off seasons. The Bills are great, but you got to have some semblance of a run game. Now, I think teams like the Titans, too dependent on the run game. They're too dependent on the run. They're stuck in the 70s. But at the same time, you got to have some semblance of a running game. And here's why. Because you get in situations like yesterday. I heard somebody, one of the CBS analysts the other day, they said they still believe the way you win in the playoffs is by running the ball and playing good defense. If you got a quarterback like Mahomes and Burrow and Jalen Hurts, of course, that helps. But the team that runs the football better, I'm not saying you got to be Derrick Henry and hand it to him 50 times a game. I'm saying the team that runs the ball better and plays a better defense is going to be the team that goes the furthest. Look at Philly. They run the ball like crazy. Cincinnati was completely dominant in the run game. You look at Kansas City even. Their run game, I mean, when Mahomes went out and Chad Henne was in there, their run game was all over the place. San Francisco, we know their run game's always top-notch. So, Buffalo, where they fall into that, they don't hardly run the ball hardly at all. Josh Allen's their leading rusher, which is A, going to shorten his career because he's taken too many ridiculous hits, and number 2, that's ridiculous that your quarterback would be your leading rusher in that scenario. They have got to figure out a run game because in January, like I heard Rand Carthon, new GM of the Titans the other day, he said, listen, I realize it's fun to watch what he called Golden State Warriors football in September and October in those warmer months. Yeah, it's fun to watch Josh Allen just chunking it down there to Gabe Davis and Stephon Diggs. But then you get in situations like yesterday where it's snowing, where it's, you know, cold, and you're in Buffalo. You're going to play in cold temperatures, snow, and all that stuff. And you'd love to have a run game to lean on in that situation, and Buffalo didn't. I said it earlier about Cincinnati. Cincinnati can go into any place in any condition and win. They're built to do it. Burrow didn't come in there trying to throw bombs down the field. He took the throws that were there. 8-yard completion to Higgins. Dump it off the run back out of the backfield. There's Chase for 11 yards. And they just march down the field. Whereas the Bills, it's like, let's run 4 verticals and just try to chunk it down there. It works in those warmer months because Josh Allen's good enough to do that. But when you get in a situation like this, you've got to have a run game. You've got to not feel like you have to have the home run play all the time. And that's where the Bills failed the most. No run game at all. And then their defense was disappointing. They missed Von Miller. Von Miller got hurt, and their defense was never the same. They could have used him yesterday because they could not get to Burrow at all. But, yeah, I mean, the Bengals are built to survive in conditions like that. And I know when you're tuning in and you're watching NFL football in September and October, nobody's thinking about, well, in January it's going to be cold. Nobody's thinking about that. You're just in the moment and you're watching, and I get it. I'm like that too. But the playoffs are in January, and you're in Buffalo. So their game plan just wasn't suited. And I'm not just going to blame it on the weather. I mean, the Bengals were just a better team. But anyway, last but not least, let me get a sip of coffee. For those that don't know, obviously I love the Titans, but we all have our teams that we just hate. All right, we just hate them. And of course, for us, you know, I hate the Jaguars, the Colts, the Texans, the divisional rivals, whatever. But outside of that, I still hate the Ravens from that rivalry way back. But like on my list of most hated teams, the Dallas Cowboys, they're at the top. Can't stand them. The media attention, I mean, it's the same reason everybody can't stand them. The media attention they get, living off of a reputation that's older than me. Well, we won the Super Bowls back in the 80s. America's team, based on what? I mean, unless America's a bunch of losers. I mean, unless that's what we want to be. I just, and like, Jerry Jones and the way he's so overly involved, and they always have a camera in his face to ask him what he thinks about everything. It's cringeworthy. It's nauseating. Skip Bayless, that just puts it over the top. Skip Bayless, the "We Dem Boys" catchphrase, the year after year acting like they're owed something. I mean, I just can't stand them. So, like, when the Titans got put out and they weren't going to make the playoffs, it was like, okay, I am officially rooting for whoever's playing the Cowboys. It would have been hard if it would have been the Eagles next week. It would have been hard because you know the Eagles situation. But I was like, man, whoever's playing the Cowboys, that's who I want to win. I was rooting for Brady and company last week. They wet the bed. So I was all in on San Francisco. And I'm sitting there and I'm like, come on, 49ers, man. I cannot put up, like, because I was worried. I was like, man, this Cowboys team, they could, you know, this is probably the most Super Bowl looking team they've had in a long time. And I was worried, okay? I was like, oh, no. I can't live in a world where the Cowboys get to the NFC title game, God forbid go to the Super Bowl, God forbid win. Like, I will not be able to leave the house. And they go out there, and I'm just watching, and kicker misses an extra point because, of course, he missed like 18 of them against the Bucs, and then he missed another one, and he's lucky it got blocked because it was going to be wide left. I don't know if you saw the extra point by Maher that it got blocked, thankfully for him, because that thing was going wide left. 9-6, and then, you know, it was 16-12, I think, Niners. And at some point in the game, you know, Dak threw 2 picks in the first half or whatever. It was 19-12, all right, 49ers, and there was less than 4 minutes to go, and the Cowboys got the ball down by 7, ball at their own 20 or something. And this is their chance. This is Dak's chance to go down there. And I ain't got a problem with Dak Prescott, except that he plays for the Cowboys. This is their chance to go down there for Dak to prove he's that guy, for all this stuff. And when they had 1st and 10, like, it just hit me. In that moment, the Cowboys are going to lose. They were down by 7. They had all the time in the world. They had the ball at their own 20, and still, like, it just hit me all of a sudden. I was like, dude, they're going to lose. Like, there's no doubt in my mind. Because this is the Cowboys. And as Stephen A. Smith says about him, what can go wrong will go wrong. 1st and 10, Dak nearly throws a pick 6 on the 1st and 10 play. I don't know if you remember. I'm going to go through for you because I remember. He nearly throws a pick 6. The guy drops an interception. Then on 2nd and 10, he's got Michael Gallup running down the field open. He had beaten 2 guys. Dak misses him. I don't remember if it was an overthrow or an underthrow, but he missed him. Then 3rd and 10, he takes a sack. And then they have to punt. It's like at that point, we've got a group text. We were sending voice text because there's a couple of us in there. Wesley Barnes, who's in the chat. We hate the Cowboys, and so we're just losing it because we can see it. Last year when they did the stupid quarterback draw on the last play of the game to lose in the playoffs, that was funny, but that was it took a second for that to sink in. This was a situation where you knew what was coming, you knew what was going to happen, you knew that in some way they were going to blow it, and then you just got to sit back and enjoy it. Niners get the ball back, and I'm sitting there, and I literally said, I hope the Cowboys get the ball back. I hope they get the ball back because I want them to have one last shot to do something hilarious to blow the game. I am so glad they got the ball back because they got the ball. First of all, they throw it out to a tight end. They're just trying to get in position for a Hail Mary. They throw it out to a tight end who doesn't even get out of bounds in time. They have to keep the clock running with no timeouts. That's hilarious. Then he throws the same route to the same guy, and they're like, all right, that gets him to the 40. Maybe he can chunk it up from there, but he didn't get both feet down. What a careless play by this guy. He doesn't get both feet in bounds, so it's an incomplete pass, so it's like it never happened. So then they come out there with 5 seconds to go, and they're in this formation that I don't even know how to describe it. You got Zeke Elliott at center snapping the ball to Dak. On this side, I've watched this play back 20 times, not to try to make sense of it, but just to laugh. It was Hilton, a couple offensive linemen, and the kick returner are over here. And then on the other side is CeeDee Lamb and some of the receivers, a couple linemen. There's no offensive line. It's Zeke. This is straight up that Colts-Patriots play where they ran the thing with the 3 guys just hovered around him. It's Zeke Elliott by himself with no line, snapping the ball to Prescott, and they've got all these guys just scattered on the field. They line up into formation, so San Francisco's like, timeout. This is the stupidest thing I've ever seen. Let's prepare. And so, I saw the formation and was like, oh, this is going to be hilarious. There was no thought of maybe they've got something clever up their sleeve. It was no, this is going to be idiotic. And the announcers are trying to tell us, man, Mike McCarthy's been working on his end of game situation. Man, he's really got something special planned here. So they come back out in the same formation. Zeke Elliott has a look on his face of just oh, this is so stupid. They zoomed in on his face. He's getting ready to snap the ball. Zeke Elliott. He snapped this ball. He got absolutely steamrolled. I don't remember who it was. I don't remember if it was the nose tackle. I don't know if it was a linebacker or what. Whoever it was just took off in a sprint and just bulldozed Ezekiel Elliott and flattened him on the ground. And then Dak, this was their play. This was their brilliant play. Dak turns to the left, throws a slant too high. He throws it too high. So the kick returner jumps up to catch this slant and then gets leveled by a corner for San Francisco. And that's how the game ended. Dude, the funniest, I posted on Twitter, I said, I nominate the Dallas Cowboys for the funniest final play of a season that's ever happened. That was the most perfect, the stupidest formation. I listen, I've tried to make sense of it. I don't know what they were trying to do. I have no idea what they were trying to do. I guess maybe the guy who caught it was supposed to have another guy coming toward him that he was going to lateral it to. Like, I don't know. But it was the most hilarious thing that I've ever seen. Zeke Elliott is just laid out on the ground. And I was like, maybe the plan was that they wanted to lateral it back to Ezekiel Elliott. Number one, I don't know why you would want to do that, because he hadn't done anything in the game. Like, Tony Pollard got hurt, Zeke Elliott came in, and he was wanting to feed him, and, he wasn't digesting it very well. So, I don't know if the plan was we want to lateral this thing to Zeke, but I'm telling you what, man. Zeke got flattened, and I knew it was going to happen. I was like, he's going to snap this ball and get absolutely killed. And that's exactly what happened. I don't know how you could think anything else would happen. The kick returner, goes up to catch this slant, gets clobbered. I was out of breath from laughing, and I'm not just saying that on the podcast. I was literally heaving. I was laughing so hard because I had already been laughing. Because I could feel like the collapse is coming. That's why I wanted them to get the ball back one more time, because I was like, they're going to do something so stupid that I'll remember it for the rest of my life. And that's exactly what they did, man. Bravo to the Dallas Cowboys for the worst. And on a serious note, going forward for them, I don't know. Dude, they have paid Dak Prescott. They've given him such a big contract. I don't know what you're supposed to do there, because he looked horrible last night. He's a good little quarterback, but man, he looked horrible last night. And I don't know what in the world they're going to do, because you got Jalen Hurts and the Eagles in that division, and they're going to be back next year no matter what happens in the NFC title game. So I don't know what they're going to do. As for San Francisco, what a story Brock Purdy is. This kid, Mr. Irrelevant. Because I thought he was going to collapse last night. I was like, the 49ers are going to lose, and he's going to be the reason why. But this kid just keeps making great throws. He's extending plays. He reminds me a little bit of Johnny Manziel in college. Like, this kid's good. We know they got great weapons all over the field. And unless he just has a disastrous NFC title game or something, if I'm San Francisco, forget Brady, forget Jimmy G, forget Trey Lance. I'm going with Purdy next season. Like, the kid looks great. You give him a full off season, like, I'd stick with him. I like the kid. And can you imagine how relieved Christian McCaffrey must be? He was with the Carolina Panthers, got traded, came over to this team, and they're straight up contenders. He ain't lost since he's been there, I don't think. Good for him. 49ers, I got to make my picks because I'm not doing another episode this week. I got to make my picks. The NFC title game is the 49ers and the Eagles. I think the 49ers have a better shot at winning this game than the Cowboys would have, because the 49ers defense is legit. I love the 49ers defense. They are something. Obviously, the 49ers have a ton of weapons. A.J. Brown looked like he might have tweaked a hamstring against the Giants. That'll be something we look at this week. Jalen Hurts looked great. At the end of the day, I think Brock Purdy can go into Philadelphia and play well. But man, that's a big stage for a rookie quarterback in Philadelphia in the NFC title game against probably the most complete team in the league in Philly. That's a lot to ask of this kid. That's a lot to ask. They haven't had to go on the road in these playoffs. It's a lot to ask to go to Philadelphia in the playoffs. Eagles just feel like they're just rolling. I mean, they looked so good. I'm going to have to go with the Eagles over the Niners. I'm going to have to. I mean, I think it'll be close because the Niners defense will keep them in the game. But at the end of the day, while I do think Purdy is the guy for San Francisco in the future, at this point in his career, rookie, NFC title game, on the road, in Philly, that seems like a lot to ask of him. So that's why I'm going to go with the Eagles. AFC title game, Bengals-Chiefs. A lot of people are going to pick the Bengals, and I don't blame you. The Bengals have the Chiefs number. I think the Bengals have beaten the Chiefs 3 times this year. In 2022. In 2022, they beat the Chiefs 3 times. They beat them in the regular season last year, then they beat them in the AFC title game, then they beat them in this regular season. The Bengals have the Chiefs number. What that tells me is that the Chiefs are due a win over the Bengals. Mahomes is hurt. He's not going to be 100%, but it's in Kansas City. Chiefs are going to be, in a way, viewed as the underdogs because Mahomes is hurt and because the Bengals are rolling so much. Everybody's going to be doubting the Chiefs, and for that reason, I'm going with the Chiefs. I just have a feeling that the Chiefs, Andy Reid, Patrick Mahomes, Travis Kelce, I don't think they're going to lose to the Bengals in the AFC title game 2 years in a row. I think the Bengals are going to put up a great fight. I think it's going to come down to the wire. But I just, for some reason, I have a feeling the Chiefs are going to win because everybody's going to pick the Bengals to win. I'm going to go with the Chiefs. And that is that. Thank you guys for joining me on the Two Tone Talk podcast. I appreciate everybody for watching on YouTube, listening on Spotify and other platforms. This is the Two Tone Talk podcast where we're staying way too high on the wins, way too low on the losses. We talk Titans most of the time, but because there was really no new Titans news, we just had to talk about the divisional round today. Remember, no new episodes later this week. We'll be back a week from today on Monday to talk about the AFC and NFC title games, whoever's going to the Super Bowl. Thank you guys for joining me. I appreciate you more than you know. Everybody have a good day. Bye, everybody.
Just feel free. Just let loose of what's got you down. Take your worries, stomp them in the ground. Just let loose of what's got you down.